Wow, Stream Elements bot running. I don't know what that does. Alrighty then. Okay, I don't know how many times it's going to say Stream Elements bot running. I'm not sure that I want that. I don't really know what that Stream Elements thing is doing anyway, so I'm not really all that sure that it's something I really want to keep going. I'm probably going to delete all that stuff. I don't really use it. I would love to have all that, where it shows people joined and all that stuff, but there's not that many people in my chat anyway. I don't think it matters. Anyway, welcome to evidence-based audio number 190. And this one is called Dante is a dongle? Changed my mind. All right, and we've talked about Dante on here before. So first up, oh boy, my glasses are. I actually got acetone on my my cheap readers from another problem I'm having that I think we're going to talk about a little bit. Anyway, so first thing was I went to fire up OBS, and so I could do this episode, and I got a error from Stream Deck that it wasn't connecting to OBS. So I went to these glasses are just impossible to see through. Sorry. I went to Reddit and everywhere else, Google, as much as we talked about Google not really working. A couple things came up on Reddit, and there's a web page that one Elgato Phil is actually linked that has a different version of the plugin you can download and overwrite, and it seems to be working. But what I did read is that after I turn this off and maybe restart the computer, it's probably not going to be working again. So I don't know. Please, guys, just whatever it is. I know the latest OBS have been breaking things, but I went back to an older version. But just keep an eye on your Stream Deck. If you guys, I could use some Stream Deck tips, actually. If you got a lot of Stream Deck users out there, I could use some help with mine. I really do want to make my web stuff better, or whatever, this chat thing. But I don't really understand a lot of it. But yeah, if you got a Stream Deck, keep an eye on it. Looks like something came up that broke its integration with OBS recently, so it's just something to be aware of. Okay, so first thing is I have a Floyd Rose 7-string. I wanted this particular tremolo because this is the only 7-string that you can get, as far as I know, in oil slick. And you guys know how much I love about oil slick. I think we talked about this before. This is the most expensive tremolo that they make. I mean, the most basic. They got some like hot rod versions. I'm sure they may have a hot rod version of this, which again would be the more expensive one. Man, the fine tuners work horribly on this thing. And so I actually just went and got some new screws from a hardware store, and I'm using those. I could really use a way to make a conical pins at the end of them. They would work better. Here's how this tremolo. So here's a saddle from All Parts. This may be slightly different than Floyd Rose's one, but not by much. And this groove here is what seems to make so much of the problem. The screws that it comes with, and I would love to show you pictures of the fine tuning screws, but I almost guarantee you will not be able to find any. There may be an All Parts one. In fact, let me bridge parts, tremolo saddles for Locking tremolo saddles. All right, let me just look at here. Let me see if we can find a screw. So here's their version of the Load Pro saddle. So I don't see a fine tuning screw. Let's see. Is there a fine tune? See if something comes up. No. Try that again. Fine tuner. Yeah, I'm not seeing the fine tuning screws, and I can't find them anywhere. So if I go to Floyd Rose Pro fine tuner screw, I'd love to get you a picture of one. If you look, none of these are actually fine tuning screws. Here, this one says Pro fine tuning screw, and if I go here, it's going to say that they're sold out. They're unavailable. And I'd love to show you the bottom of these things because this had like this weird oblong cam that just doesn't work in battery charger. Actually ordering another battery charger. I want to talk about that when it comes in. If you can see the bottom of these have a weird cam that goes into this thing. It's weird. If you turn it, let's say you're turning it clockwise, the tuning pitch will go up, 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 then it'll jump down when that cam hits that groove. And then it'll go up again. It's a really screwy system. And I'm telling you, it is so hard to find a picture of this whole thing. This is one of those, okay. So there's one set that I ordered. They weren't actually the Pro screws. They were actually regular tuner screws. So this one's saying that these are fine tuner Pros, whatever. Set of 6. I wonder if this is actually available. So I ordered some things and they ended up being the wrong size. So I have a feeling that this is probably gonna be the wrong size again. Let me look. So there's not much on the Floyd Rose's site or anybody else's site about how exactly these things work. So here's the Pro on 6-string, and I'm trying to get a side view because if I could, I have a feeling I can see if these saddles are any different, but they should be the same. I don't understand why when I ordered Pro saddles, they were way too short, and I have a feeling these are going to be too short as well. So Floyd Rose Pro fine tuner set. Maybe I'll order these and see if they actually fit, but I don't think this is right. These look way too short. They should be about 12 millimeters. Anyways, like I said, it's really hard to find any info about these things. See, here's a regular Floyd screws, and that's a lot longer right there. See, I don't... These look like they're the same size right here. I don't believe this. Anyway, it's a more expensive tremolo, and I actually had to route out a brand new guitar to stick this in here. It came with an original Floyd Rose, which worked awesome, but I really wanted this oil slick, and so this is the high price you pay for vanity, right? And I just cannot get these tuners working well, and it's a bummer. I'd like to hear from anybody if you guys understand how these ones work. So if you look at these tuners, they're a little bit taller than the regular Floyd tuners. These definitely aren't Pro tuners right here. These are the regular Floyd Rose tuners. At least for the 7-string version, they use a taller knurled head on them, and it looks like on here too. So if I go to 1000 series. So the other confusing part is it a 1000 series? Is it made in Germany? Is it made in America? Is it made in Korea? I don't know. I don't know what this thing is. For some reason, it's more expensive than the rest of them, but it seems to work far more craptastic-ier. Let me see if I can show this side view here. Okay, so here you can see this has a much taller head on it, and how it sits in that groove, it's just horrible, man. I'm almost thinking that if I flatten this thing out, it'll work a lot better. But yeah, I don't like this design at all. I wish they'd just make oil slick in the original. I'd be fine with that. I'd love some help with this guy. Maybe if I can make a really conical pin end on this thing, it would work a little bit better. I just don't know. And it's funny. I got taken to task for buying a cheap imitation Floyd Rose. I'm like, go to their website. It's on there. It's the most expensive one they've got, so I don't want to hear it. Anyways, so let me get out of here. So yeah, these definitely aren't the Pro screws, even though it says so over at WD or Warmoth. WD. I guess I could call them up and see what they have to say. You know what? My first Floyd Rose of all was actually a WD, and it was good because it actually had adjustable saddle heights on it instead of having to use shims like on a real Floyd Rose. Let's see what they got here. Tremolo bridges. I wonder if they're still making their own. Floyd Rose 1000. Floyd Rose original. Geez, look at that. $642 for a hot rod. Wow, this is not cheap, man. I can get this cheaper off of their site, but this is kind of how crazy things are going right now. Left hand. These are all actual. Oh, here we go. Here's some Godos. And Godo, I think, made a lot of the not Floyd Rose, but Floyd Rose style bridges that everybody really liked. So here's a WD. This is a 7-string. Interesting, they got a lot of 7 strings on here. So the WD that I got, this doesn't have. It's just their own tremolo. It's amazing how little information anything has anymore. Like you just saw at the Floyd Rose site, there was almost nothing to it. Yeah, really, it's not telling you jack. Interesting. Okay, let me just get out of here. So another thing that I wanted to see. Let's see. So here's the scalar versions. So Schaller, whatever you call them. These are the guys who make Floyd Roses for Floyd Rose. I guess for the originals, they're actually made in Germany. This is their version, the Lockmeister 7. And not really sure what's supposed to be better about this, but they say, as the sole manufacturer of the world's most renowned double locking tremolo, we felt it was time to push the envelope. So they have a C45 steel ground plate, forged and hardened in Germany, resulting in improved sound and sustain, as well as superior tremolo performance and intonation. That could be. High tolerances. Let's see. Identify the perfect choice of pivot screws and tremolo springs. Down to the springs, we learned how all burnish surfaces were prone to corrosion. That's why all studs, inserts, and screws on our new Scalar Lockmeister tremolo now feature black zinc and black chrome finishes for improved look, touch, and durability. Special studs with additional inserts are used to mount the tremolo onto the instrument. The inserts have a fine thread. We also supply studs with threads which enable the studs to be specifically screwed into the wood body of the instrument. No, thank you. Same dimensions of the Floyd Rose tremolo. You can easily replace your Floyd Rose tremolo with one of our Lockmeister tremolo. This also applies to all replacement parts. So I'm not really sure. I mean, they're just saying there's better metals in here or something. And this would be the skinnier string width. I'm not sure. I mean, give it a try. Speaking of which, I know we keep going back and forth with these. Oh yeah, you got the 1000. Yeah, gotta get the upgraded version to get anything decent. The cheap ones suck. Well, that's the thing. I've got the most expensive one they got on there for that oil slick one anyway, and that's the Pro, right? That's you can't get a cheap Pro as far as I know. I think the 1000s for the most part is the Korean made ones, which to me the Koreans are fanatics and I really like how they're building guitars, so I wouldn't be surprised that their Floyds are pretty damn good. So I don't know. I don't know where the particular Floyd Rose Pro 7 is made. It might be a 1000. It might not be. It's very little information on there. But yeah, the fine tuners are absolutely horrible on it, and it seems to be across every pro model. And yeah, I'm not surprised if the 1000 works well. It's made by people who really care about this stuff. But anyway, so let me get out of this Sailor Tremolo. Um, One thing I was really wanted is the pickup plate. You know, I'm always having to open that thing up, especially when we are using these tremolo stabilizer devices. I'm actually running one of my guitars without again, so that one's got an original Floyd Rose on it. Yeah, hey Simon. But you know, one of the things I'd really like to see is, you know, your tremolo cover plate, and in fact, for your electronic cover plate, any of your damn cover plates. Why do we have wood screws holding these things in the guitar? Things should just be magnetic, and so you just pop it off really easy. I could see a problem having to stick a pick in there and yank on it. Steve Vai's Tech used a Velcro to hold that thing on, but that's going to make it stick out, and I'd rather that not happen. So I'd love to just find some little itty bitty magnets and just bury them in the wood and stick them in there. I've seen it actually done on some custom guitars, but I don't know where I could buy this if there's an actual source to buy it. One thing that I was able to get, and again, man, we're getting to the point where most everything is just a catalog. I mean, try buying bike parts, for instance, or computer parts. There's no real description. There's just a picture of it and a price. And you know, I have no idea whether or not this tremolo backplate was going to fit anything. In fact, it fits some guitars and doesn't fit others. But I ordered this. This is actually pretty handy to me. It's got a little cover. You pop a pick in there and pop it open, and you can get to your springs and stuff. Be aware that they don't tell you what size it is, and you just got to hope it fits right. Which kind of sucks. I really wish. I'd love to see more information. Look, everything is information light now, and it's as if you're just supposed to magically know it. And if you to type in any of this stuff and try and Google it, you're not going to find anything. You don't even get a picture of the black one here, which is the funniest part. You get to pick black or white, but you don't even have a picture. You would think something would be on here. But if you guys know of a place where to get a magnetic pick guard cover, I'd love to know it. Have I tried Reverb? I tried Reverb. That's actually where I bought the all parts one from it. But let's see, Reverb, magnetic. Let me see, tremolo plate. Let's just say plate. Reverb, tremolo block and plate. Let's just go to Reverb. Let's see, magnetic. Let's just try magnetic. Cover. Okay, well, that was going to get us pickup covers. Spring, maybe. Plate. Computer plate. What is this doing in the Yeah, I don't know. I don't see anything at Reverb. I'm maybe searching badly. I don't know. All right, let me get on to here's something having a pretty funny, as usual, the argument with the Dunning-Krugers over at the gear page, who we'll talk about that later. But they're actually talking about a specific modeler here, but I want to read this post because it's to me it's kind of interesting and it's very important to you guys that are always fighting over what kind of computer to use or fighting the format wars or whatever. Fancy Salmon says, as he's responding to technology relentlessly marches on, and I guess I better give the context. We're talking about the Line 6 Helix, which is guitar modeler that I think came out in 2015, so it is very old at this point. and yet they're still developing for it, which is kind of different for Line 6. I guess we can get into that fight later. But for a digital device to last 7 years, it's pretty incredible. I think the Kemper's even older than that, if you really think about it. But people are saying, this thing is old already. They got to replace it. The chips are old. Everything's old. Why are we running on this old thing? And in a way, it's true. Had it not been for the chip shortage, there's actually lower cost versions of the Helix, like the Helix Stomp and the HX Effects and things like that. And in reality, were it not for the chip shortage, these cheaper devices should actually be way, way more powerful 7 years later than the original. But they aren't. They're a subset of the features of the Helix. And in fact, the Pod Go, which is around $500, it's a third of the price of the Helix. About, it's way newer. It should actually be more powerful than the Helix. And this is actual. If it weren't for the chip shortage, I would definitely call this crippleware. But maybe it's not. So with all that said, and the idea that this thing is way too old and we should be changing chips and stuff, Fancy Salmon is responding to a post that said technology relentlessly marches on. And he says, the pace is nowhere near as dramatic as it was in the 90s and the early 2000s. For example, these days, even PCs over 10 years old, obviously not budget old ones, can perform well in a wide variety of situations, whereas before 2010s, it was unthinkable. Helix's amp modeling and overall sound quality is already stellar. There isn't that much room for improvement. What can be improved is the user interface, the number of simultaneous effects, maybe. More amps and effects, stuff like that. I mean, with the existing hardware, I don't know that that's... some of that may not be all that possible. The cabs too, of course, but it's not due to lack of power. It loads third-party IRs, no problem. But it's not going to get more real simply by throwing in a more powerful chip. It's already on the level where it's real enough, and you can use it in a pro studio or live environment for all kinds of genres. And, I mean, that's really true about computers as well. I know, man, some of you guys are going to push back on that really hard. But I say it. I always say that about computer builds. Even the worst piece of crap in the last 5 years blows the living hell out of stuff we had to mix hundreds of albums on back in the day. So in the early 2000s, man, the crappiest computer you could buy today, it would just beat the living crap out of those things. I mean, just in a terrible way. I don't know if you guys know the kind of stuff we used to have to do. And to me, computers are new. So it's funny to say back in the day, but back in the day, you used to have to like render out your drum tracks and stuff because there just wasn't going to be enough power for you to run. And I was saying, I keep wondering if there'd be a mega hack way to just stick more DSP chips on. That's seriously all I would need in terms of upgrades and future-proof. We fought the sample rate war 20 years ago. Bit depth, what are we going to get out of more bit depth out of a guitar model or nothing? You could argue some more DSP for anti-aliasing, but it's still just more DSP power. And aside from the chip shortage, it's actually surprising to me that the HX Stomp isn't 16 times or so more powerful than the Helix itself. The point being, having more computer power is not really going to make your amp modeler sound better, I don't think. There are some profiling things coming out. We're maybe working on something like that. There's several. There's the Kemper. There's Amplitude has Tonex now. That could take some more DSP, maybe not. But yeah, could we just stick more DSP on there? I think we probably could. It may be more trouble than it's worth, but I would be interested because if I just had more DSP power on the Helix, just where I could run anything that any of the, if we could actually fit everything we wanted into the blocks that are there, and not have to pick and choose like the worst algorithm so we can actually fit all the blocks in, I think I'd be pretty damn happy. We got more than enough of a path there. Okay, and so let me go to this post here. I think this is something people are talking about all the time. So again, it's on the gear page and it's saying, I'm struggling with something. I'm having a hard time resolving the fact that my guitar rig sound is only as good as the PA I'm playing through and the people that are setting up the sound for you. The debate between modelers and tube amplifiers is interesting, but in the end, both methods of sound delivery end up going through the PA. Of course, you could just play through your own backline speakers only, but how practical is that? Am I making a rational point here, or am I just losing my marbles? Just embrace it. Thoughts? Okay, let's see. Simon's saying, I'm still running a custom-built PC that is 10 years old and still runs without any noticeable problems compared to my Macman 1. Yeah. But this guy's asking, you guys obsess over all this guitar sound and stuff, and then you're at the mercy of the sound man when you're at the show. A lot of these Dunning-Krugers over the gear page will just tell you to bring up your 4x12 and your real tube amp or whatever. But unless you're talking about a pretty small show, nobody's hearing that real tube amp anyway. They're hearing the PA. And like it or not, that's what the audience is hearing. They're hearing the PA system. So if you don't like what you're getting out of the PA, and I don't know that you know what you're getting out of the PA, the audience may be hearing something very different. Maybe you got a wireless and you jump out there with the audience so you can hear what it sounds like. But even then, you may be listening for something different than the audience is hearing. Go ahead and bring your 4x12 on stage, but you might just make it worse. You might bring the volume up so much on stage that other compromises have to be made with the band. And remember that, in the studio, we struggle hard to mix, to fit each instrument in and make it sound good in context in the song, not just by itself. And you might see like an automation where a guitar played by itself sounds, you have a totally different settings on it than when you're playing it with the band. Same thing happens in a live mix, and things go by so fast as well. So it's hard to be sure that you're getting the sound you want out of the PA. You may not. You may never get that sound you want out of the PA, honestly. And it really is something you have to think about. So somebody else says, you're absolutely right. Unless you provide your own PA like my band does, then you're completely dependent on the sound engineer to not mess up your guitar sound in the band mix. For all you know, he's improving it. But even if you do have your own PA, it's still a mix. It's still a mix. So he says, there's a million variables that go into what the audience ultimately hears. Only a few of these variables are under your control, just the nature of the beast. You have to make peace with the fact that every gig is not going to be perfect. But, we strive for perfection. We struggle to get it right. But I really like the attitude here. Learn to roll with it or lose your mind. It's true. It's going to be very hard to make it always perfect. And so here you go. This is when you get scared, is when people say stuff like this. We have our own PA, so this isn't as much of a problem for us. Well, it may not be as much of a problem for you. Like maybe maybe you're your own sound guy, so you can control what you're doing. But that mix may still suck, and maybe your sound guy still sucks. Maybe it wasn't a problem in the first place. It's just you want to hear something different than the sound guy wants to hear. And I would usually, well, I've seen a lot of drunk fire and forget sound men, but for the most part, they have a better idea of what the audience wants to hear than you do, usually. Let's see. So it's going on. There have been instances where part of an event where the PA will be provided. In those cases, I do some homework on what the PA and stage monitor system consists of and try and have a chat with whoever will be doing the sound. You got to feel for what we're dealing with. Yeah, people... Listen, this is like back in the day when people would call up the studio and say, hey, do you have this microphone or this or that? Maybe you know enough to be that specific, but in general, the bands didn't. They were just looking to copy what somebody else said. And they wouldn't know if you had that thing or not. They wouldn't care. They're insisting on a set of tools. And I always say it, this is back in the DAW Wars day, I said the same thing. If you got a heart surgery going on, you go to your heart surgeon and say, hey, make sure you're using this particular scalpel, as if you knew. You're going there because the guy spent a lot of time in school and training and stuff and knows what he's doing. And I wouldn't tell him what tools to use. I mean, obviously, if you got some hack or something, look, I don't want somebody working on my heart that I know more about the tools than they do. That's terrifying. So, let's see. But yeah, every time we have a sound guy running sound, we're at the mercy of somebody else's ears. I noticed a common trend lately is to complain about the volume, mix the guitar low, but set the bass to dance club levels with an overall crappy mix. We've also had some really good people who just nailed it. And we're kind of seeing that. I think it's because clubs are getting used to DJs, right? Let's see. Simon says, I played at the level of support to the likes of Skid Row, Faith No More, Cutting Crew, etc., but never had any control over the sound. Soundmen back then viewed it as their art, not mine. And, at least hopefully you had control over what you were hearing in your monitors as much as they can. I mean, can't make miracles, but in general, make sure you got the sound that you need to hear where you are. And I've seen, okay, so we, during this pandemic, oh my God, did I say it? During the Backstreet Boys reunion tour, coming out of it, shows have been insane to the point where we're trying to chase down soundmen, get new sound guys, get lots of gear and everything, and get out there. And it's not any different now. If the band's happy on stage with their own monitor mix or whatever, they're happy. They play happy, and the audience is happy. It could be the crappiest gear in the world. That's why I don't know. Don't bother. What gear do you have? I mean, make sure it's okay stuff, of course. But much more important is that the artist hears what they want to hear, and they're happy. And I think after that, the audience is going to be happy for the most part. I mean, if you got a crappy, unhappy artist on stage, they're probably going to play crappy, and they're probably going to do stuff that the artist doesn't like, and fix that stuff. Make sure the artist is happy. Make sure you can hear what you want to hear yourself, and don't worry about so much what the audience hears. I mean, they'll probably yell if they can't hear you anyway. Let's see. See, it's like I say, the decisions are best made by someone on the other side of the PA. And 62 Telly answers with, true, as long as the person isn't drunk, baked, sporting ears blown out by years of bands, good with electronics but no sense of music, disgruntled and convinced they're a better musician than anyone on the stage. Oh boy, how many times have you seen that one? Distracted and not paying attention to the mix. That one too. The fire and forget, just run to the bar and have some beers. And Rumbletone says that maybe we're spoiled here, but I can't think of a recent gig where a pro sound person didn't do at least as good of a job as we could have done ourselves, including because he or she can, turn knobs and listen in the room while we're on stage playing. Yeah. How good do you think you can make those decisions? Just surrender to the flow. Life's too short. Play more gigs and enjoy your tone on stage. Yeah. Leave the front of the house to the professionals. Okay. And so this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think he's right. For this reason, more than any, something like a Kemper or Fractal makes the most sense. You have control over the rig sound more than any other way. Trusting in their mics and PA, it's a difficult thing to swallow that a 10K guitar rig through a cheap PA where the sound tech dials it in like crap won't sound as good as a Boss Katana with a great PA and engineer. Sad but true. Yeah. Anyways, so let me move on to this. And this is something, okay. If you're the user of software and you got an idea that you want to make it better, I'll tell you from the developer side of things, I want to hear it. I want to hear what you would rather have done. What I don't like is when people choose for everybody else that would be a waste of time. Not go near the front of the house sound, totally different discipline. Yeah. Yeah, I know you guys think because you record and mix in the studio that you know what you're doing out in a PA system. Let me tell you, it's mellower in most places than it is here. But I'll tell you, in Hawaii, when you have some very big drunk Hawaiians and Samoans, people that, if you ever watch, football game and you say, hey, look, man, those people are huge. These guys would just pick up the football. Yeah, actually, they'd pick up the football player who was holding the football and just walk across the field. And you could try and tackle them all you want, and they're just going to laugh at you as they walk through there. Anyway, you get that kind of setup going with the 300-400 guys like that out in the audience. And the thing starts feeding back. I think you're in for a world of hurt. You're not going to be able to get that thing knocked down and controlled the way a professional front of house engineer does. Because, first of all, the feedback probably wouldn't have happened in the first place. But even if it does, it'll be gone immediately. Whereas, you know, me trying to work my way through this because we have a shortage of guys here, I'm just lucky I came out of these things alive. So it's not that you're superior because you're a recording engineer. It's a totally different thing. There's no rewind button. People they're not gonna obsess over the sound as much live as we do in the studio. But at the same time, they expect certain things. They expect to be able to hear everything well. It doesn't need to sound good, but it needs to be hearable. And they expect not to have feedback blowing them up. That's the other thing. So anyway, there's some utility functions that I would like to see in a piece of software. And this is no different than any time you get in the software with a bunch of Dunning-Kruger idiots. And I was talking about, if free in this case is for the Helix again. And I'd like to see an offline mode for the editor because it already is an offline editor. You guys can argue that all you want. Come on here. I'll give you a link and argue with me that it's not already an offline editor. It's just that it's been crippled to not actually work in that way. The fact that you can export and import the files and the thing will read it, it's capable of doing it offline. Get out of here. The Helix itself is software. There's not some magical box in there that could read this thing and nothing else could. It's software. It's software. It's software. It's an offline editor. But I digress. And so I'm talking about, there's reasons why this thing would be handy. But, and this is what I keep saying, when you guys, especially if you guys are using their software and you have a good idea, just tell me. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. I say, again, nobody is holding a gun to anyone's head and forcing them to use an offline editor, or let's just say any feature. If you don't like it or don't need it, don't use it. That's all. On the other hand, our side is not forcing you to forego something. Nobody is asking you to give up your car. We're just asking you that maybe you get out of the way while we get this done. And this is this thing with this cancel culture crap right now. This is the same attitude. It's never enough for people to not watch a particular TV show, for instance. They always have to make sure that nobody else is allowed to watch that particular show either. I've never understood this phenomenon. If you don't like the channel, change the channel. But don't tell everybody else they can't watch it. And maybe for you, this particular software feature is not important. But maybe it's important to somebody else. So just get the hell out of the way. I understand if it's costing you. And in this case, there's an argument to be made that implementing these features would take away from developing other things. But you know what? This thing's been sitting on a bug for as long as I've had it. I think maybe a year now or almost a year now. And if they're not going to just go and fix critical bugs, I'm talking there's two critical bugs going on here. And if they're not going to fix those, I don't really care about your how you value how they spend their time, because they're not spending it necessarily in a good way right here. And I think this could actually fix things for a lot of people. Anyway, let me shut up about that. I'm just ranting. So there's a post over at Reddit/r audio engineering. He's saying, help, looking for good counseling after suffering through the trauma of trying to source a bunch of Dante gear. My anxiety levels are through the roof. How do you unwind? I like this answer here. You could try reminding yourself that you'll not be soldering 64 channels of 2-pair copper ever again. Yeah. On the other hand, and we've talked about Dante several times on this show. In fact, some of the earliest shows were really about Dante and things like that. So this guy's having trouble buying Dante stuff because, chips are in short supply. But to me, Dante is a dongle. I know you guys can get so mad about that. But again, just like this offline editor thing, there's a software version of Dante, but it's crippled. And unless you buy a Dante-enabled thing that has the Dante chip dongle on it, they won't let you unlock the lower latencies and stuff. Listen, does anybody, this is like believing the universal audio crap anymore. Like, do you believe that with the modern DSP system that you're not going to be able to at least run some of this stuff at the latencies that the Dante thing is advertising? And the fact that Dante adds latency by itself, uh, again, like universal audio to enable that dongle, it just seems wacko to me. And so I really think that Dante is a dongle. Like I say, you buy the software version. It does everything you're talking about here. In fact, I don't know. I think maybe the software version doesn't have some of the sample rate limitations that the hardware one does. But no matter what you're doing, Dante adds round trip latency that you wouldn't have had you not been using Dante. So even if you buy the dongle version where they allow you to set the lower latencies and lower buffer sizes, which they could fully do in the software, maybe it wouldn't work as well. Hey, that's for buyer beware. That's for us on our end to see if we trust it or not. It's not like it works so well even on the hardware end that we don't have issues. So I remember I did a pretty thorough actual round trip latency test, and no matter what, the Dante version was always more latent than the not Dante. And I mean, we bought the Focusrite ones and everything else. I still say Dante is a dongle, and I think it has its utility in some places, but for the most part, I really don't think in the recording studio it's worth just adding latency and paying more money, frankly, for something that just to unlock the same sample rates that you would have had with another piece of gear. I'll take the RME stuff any day, even the USB stuff. That's it for me. I think I'm going to try and, I know I live in Hawaii, but I never go to the beach. I might try and go to the beach today. Somebody said it was nice today. So I'll be out of here. If anybody sees a magnetic tremolo cover plate or a place to buy Floyd Rose Pro screws, let me know. I've got some emails into Floyd Rose, and hopefully they'll get back to me on that. So anyway, I'll see you guys later.